Yeah, well, let's dig in. Hello, everybody. I'm David Cooks, and I tell you what, we know that paralysis can take on many forms. It can be physical like mine. It can be
do anything you put your mind to.
And what we try to do is feature stories that go from difficult places to fulfilling purpose.
What seems impossible can be done by you.
I am so excited to have Héctor Cólon with us today. Not only is he a businessman, but he's also a servant in the community.
It may knock you down, but don't let it stop you.
It was the hardest decision I ever made in my life. I had the potential of becoming a multi-world champion. I beat many multi-world champions, and I gave it up. But that same dedication, determination, and discipline it took me to be a champion boxer is the same dedication, determination, and discipline that I apply into my life, striving for excellence in everything that I do. I got that drive from boxing.
Got so much to give, a lot of life to live. You must go from paralysis to purpose.
Get your pen and paper out.
Yeah,
I'm taking notes.
Paralysis to purpose.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast. Make sure you review this podcast, like this podcast, and share this podcast. You know what I'm going to say. I am the luckiest guy alive. I get to sit here and interview some of the most intriguing and inspiring people in the world. And today is no exception. We have a guest right here from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. See, there are a lot of great things from Milwaukee. People just don't know. And he is the CEO of Lutheran Social Services of Wisconsin and Upper Michigan. He is a speaker and an author of a great book called My Journey from Boxing Room to Boardroom, the 5 essential virtues for life and leadership. I am so excited to have Héctor Cólon with us today. Not only is he a businessman, but he's also a servant in the community and does a lot of great things for a lot of people. So I think you're in for a great episode today. Get your pen and paper out because I'm sure he's going to share some things with you that will help change your life on your road from paralysis to purpose. Héctor, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, David. So happy to see you again and very happy to be here with you.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think the last time I was talking with you, your book was not, it was in your mind or on the piece of paper, but it had not been published. And I told you, I thought we would get together at some point once you had your book out. I tell you what, I had a chance to read through it, and it is a great book. It's inspiring, it's informative, it's instructive, and we're going to use that a little bit as our platform today as we talk about some of the things you've done. So let's start with your childhood and how you got involved in boxing.
Yeah. So both of my parents are from Puerto Rico. I was born here on the near south side of Milwaukee. And I recall when I was about 9 years old, I went to go play baseball with some of the kids. And there was one particular individual that didn't want people with the color of my skin in the neighborhood. And he called me a spick, the N-word, and, hit me in the face. And I came home with a bloody nose. And then I saw my father, and my father said, "What happened? ¿Qué te pasó?" And I told him, and he said he was going to take me to the gym so that I can learn how to defend myself. I wasn't interested in boxing at the time. I wanted to follow my father's footsteps and play baseball. But I go to the boxing gym, and I see these big guys, and I'm intimidated. And my coach, Shorty, Israel Acosta, who's really a giant in my life and a giant in this community, puts me in front of the mirror and starts showing me some boxing combinations. And he told my father, he said, "Your son is a natural. He's going to become a champion." And that boosted my confidence, and he was right. I ended up becoming a 7-time national champion, competing all over the world with the United States national boxing team. And in 1992, I was favored to go to the Olympics in Barcelona, Spain. I was 19 years old. I was so excited. I was already looking at that gold medal. I was already looking at that multi-million-dollar contract. And for the most important opportunity of my life, I was not focused mind, body, and spirit of what was in front of me. And I was distracted and I lost. And I was truly devastated. I wasn't hearing from the big time promoters about making the millions of dollars. And I was hurt and I was searching. And on December 27, 1992, I bought my first Bible. And on that day, I gave my life to Christ. And my life has been changed ever since. 6 months later, I fight Jesse Brasino, the guy that robbed me of my dreams. And this time I knocked him out on cable television in the first round for the U.S. Championship. Promoters started coming back, but I put it through a year of prayer and discernment. And it was the hardest decision I ever made in my life. I had the potential of becoming a multi-world champion. I beat many multi-world champions, and I gave it up. And but that same dedication, determination, and discipline it took me to be a champion boxer is the same dedication, determination, and discipline that I apply into my life, striving for excellence in everything that I do, whether it be as a husband, as a father, or as a CEO. I got that drive from boxing.
And what were those 3 Ds again? You said
dedication, determination, and discipline. And those are the 3 Ds, man. You need every one of those when you're a boxer. When you're striving, when you're a boxer, you want to be the champion. Nothing less but number one is ever good enough. And you have to really apply yourself. And then once you obtain the championship status, you want to stay there. And somebody's always trying to get you, make sure they can bring you down. So you learn that in the sport of boxing, and I'm very thankful for the experiences I had in boxing.
Tell us about your early days, because I think sometimes people confuse being successful and winning, that there aren't losses or there aren't difficulties along the way. And so on your way to 7 times being the best in the world, you had some hurdles or some things, especially early on. Could you talk a little bit about that concept?
Yeah, so I lost my first fight, and I wanted to give up. I didn't think it was that fun. You know, I was crying, and so I told my coach, I said, you know, I don't really like this. Told my father I didn't want to box anymore. My coach said, come on, champ, this is your first fight. You have natural abilities. You can become a champion. And so I fought my second fight, and I lost again. And this time I really wanted to give up, because here there's this intense fear that you have when you enter that ring. I don't care if you're Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, or Héctor Cólon. You're going into that ring with fear, and there's nothing fun about that. Then you lose, and then you cry, and you just feel humiliated. So I was like, there's nothing fun about this. But my coach came to me and he said, don't be a quitter, champ. Don't be a quitter. We can become a champ. Let's do this again, champ. And it was the way he said it. He with this overwhelming confidence and belief in me, and I listened to him. So the third fight, I won, and I ended up becoming a 7-time national champion. So it's that confidence that Shorty, that giant, instilled in me, that belief he had in me. But then, you know, the hard work it takes to become a champion and to rise to that level, at that elite level, you have to work really hard. Yeah. That means you're waking up in the morning early, you're working out in the afternoon, you're working out several hours in the evening, you're going to sleep early, you're waking up early, eating right, you know, so you have to really sacrifice a lot if you want to become that champion.
Wow. A couple of things that I found interesting, that your trainer called you champ.
Yeah.
He called you champ from the beginning. And that had to have some sort of impact on you. He didn't see you as a struggling person. He didn't see the fact that you lost the first 2 fights. He was seeing the potential in you. That's what coaches do, right? I mean, coaches in general do that. One of the things that you mentioned in your book was that we all need a coach. And I believe that wholeheartedly. In order for us to be champions in life, I think we need a coach to help us with our blind spots, motivation, those types of things. You know, you said he was a giant in your life. Now, how was that manifested through him?
Yeah. Oh man, Shorty, this giant, he would sacrifice his nights for me. I would come home, I'd play baseball, and I'd come to the gym like at 7:00 at night. Everybody's gone, and Shorty's there waiting for me to train. You know, he would sacrifice his weekends for me, his vacations, and also took me into his own home where he loved me and fed me and made sure that I could be a champion both in and out of the ring. This guy spent lots of time with me to help me get to help me become a champion.
All right. So he was instrumental in making sacrifices. Could you just touch upon a little bit of, you talked about the sacrifice that you had to make in order to compete at a high level, and what role does sacrifice play in success, not just in the boxing ring, but just in life in general?
This is the virtue I talk about in my book about magnanimity. And this is really about those daily habits, those daily rituals, those daily routines that you need to have in order to bring your best self. For me in the boxing ring, you got to bring your best self to the ring because your opponent is trying to outwork you. And so I would wake up every morning below 0 degrees. It didn't matter. I was out there running. In fact, I would talk to myself and I would say my fiercest competitor, who was Vernon Forrest at the time, he lived in Georgia. I would tell myself there's no way he's running in below 0 degrees or the 6 inches of snow. And I'd work out in the afternoons. I'd work out at night. I did a lot of self-reflection and meditation throughout the day. I used to see The Greatest Fight on TV, and I learned. I totally immersed myself. My daily habits, my daily rituals and daily routines were helping me bring my best self every time I entered into that ring. And I love talking about this virtue because that virtue is so important for life and leadership. If you want to bring your best self to your family, to your community, to your job, you know, I'm going to ask you, what are your daily habits, your daily rituals, and your daily routines? Are they the right things that are going to help you achieve your best self? You know, and, you know, think about taking a mind, body, spirit approach. Maybe it's prayer and meditation or a daily service and reflection and mindfulness and working out and taking care of your mind and reading, professional development. I think we have to do all of those things in order to bring our best selves to our jobs, to our families, to our communities each and every day. And I learned that in boxing.
Yeah, there are so many of these qualities and virtues that you learned in the sport that definitely transfer, that make you successful in life. And that was one of them. Mm-hmm. So you said you came to a fork in the road. You had a lot of success. You were doing well. But there was a conflict you had. Your faith was stirred, and you had a new relationship with God through Christ. And you had boxing is a tough sport. You're trying to hurt the other guy. You're putting your body through all these things, and you came across a scripture that says your body belongs to God, and you're wrestling with all of that. Yeah. You made a decision to walk away from boxing. Mm-hmm. How difficult was that decision, and what all went into that beyond the things that I've already mentioned?
Yeah, it was really that. So I felt this love, this joy, this peace that the world wasn't providing me, and I just wanted to immerse myself. And really, as I read lots of scripture, I came across 1 Corinthians chapter 6, and it talks about how we're temples of the Holy Spirit. What we do to ourselves, we do unto God. And I was always a good sportsmanship, but I knew I was going in there to hurt the guy and knock the guy out. And I also know that it's inevitable in the sport of boxing, you will get hurt. We see it. We see the effects that boxing has had on some of the greatest, and it's nothing nice. And so that scripture really convicted me. And because I wanted to take my faith so seriously, here I am, 19, 20 years old, with the potential of signing a lucrative contract, with the potential of helping my mother, my friends, my community, with living my dreams through my coach, Israel Acosta. There was so much to look forward to, but that conviction in my heart was deep, and it was so hard. It was so hard. Every time I would see Shorty, tears, like hard tears, just bawling, because I felt I let him down. I felt I let my community down. I felt I let my mom down. You know, I always told my mother, "Don't worry, man. We're gonna be set. I'm gonna take care of you. We're gonna have a nice house and this and that." And then I decided to give it up. You know, right when I didn't even reach my prime. So it was very difficult.
Yeah. Well, you know what though? I think that sacrifice paid off. You left the ring, and you always wanted to be involved in the medical and in the healthcare area, and so it was time to go to school, right? You decided to do some schoolwork. So you left the boxing ring and began to pursue an education. And physical therapy was your first love and thing that you wanted to work with. Take us down the education path. Take us through your academic journey, and then we'll go from there into your current professional life.
Yeah, so I didn't take school very serious in high school, because I wanted to be a professional boxer. I was traveling all over the world. I used to get tutors, and they used to kind of help me with my homework, and my teachers were kind of easy on me, with all that. And but I knew I wanted to go back to school at some point, but I was focused on becoming a professional boxer. And so when I quit boxing, I said I have to go back to school. So I take an entrance exam, started at MATC, and I scored embarrassingly low. I had to take basic arithmetic and study courses. And right away I told the counselor, "This is ridiculous. This is too easy." And she said, "I'm sorry, that's where you tested. Those are the classes you have to take." And so I started I took that, and then that next semester, I actually stopped a semester, because then I just totally immersed myself into the church and left everything and left boxing. And then I came back to school, and I told the counselor, I said, "I don't care where I tested. I need to take regular courses because I don't have any time to waste." I don't know how I did it, but I was able to convince her, and I ended up taking regular courses. And I remember taking anatomy and physiology. And at the time I started wanting to get in PT, physical therapy, but I learned the wait list was so long, and it was a 2-year degree. Then I learned about occupational therapy. So I said, if I'm going to wait this long, why don't I just get a bachelor's degree? And I liked occupational therapy. So I remember taking my first anatomy and physiology exam. I studied hard, and and it's a really hard class, and I get a B-, and I'm happy. I like, wow, that's pretty good. This was a hard test. And so I asked my colleague, the person that was sitting next to me, we were trying to build a relationship, and I asked him what he got, and he looked at me kind of upset, almost like as if, "What are you asking me this for?" But he told me, he said, "I got an A." So then he asked me what I got, and I said, "I got a B-." And he looked at me with this look like, "Man, first of all, you asked me what I got, and you shouldn't do that. Second of all, you just got a B- and you're happy." So I remember the way he looked at me, and I told myself, he's never going to look at me like that again. And an A became my standard ever since that point. And I did end up graduating with honors. I got a 3.83 in my master's degree, and I was the only student in my class to publish my thesis in the American Journal of Occupational Therapy. Then I take my first OT entrance exam. I'm smart, right? I'm an honor roll student. I worked so hard. I published this and that, and I failed. I failed that darn test, and I was devastated. But then I told myself, okay, I can do this. I'll study a little bit more. I barely failed. So I studied a little bit more and I failed again. But this time I was wounded, man. I was like, man, I worked so hard. I can't pass this test. I don't pass this test, I'm not going to be able to practice occupational therapy and make a living for me and my family. And I remember at the time seeing Vernon Forrest, who I beat twice, become a 4-time world champion, multi-millionaire. I saw Jose Antonio Rivera, who I knocked out, become a 3-time world champion, multi-millionaire. So I said, what am I doing? I should go back to boxing. Wouldn't it be so much easier to just do that versus I can't pass this test? Then I heard that echo, that voice from Shorty, that giant said, don't be a quitter, champ. Don't be a quitter, champ. You could do this, champ. And finally, I studied with the rigor and intensity. It took me to be an honor roll student to pass that test 3 times. Third time's a charm for you. I tell you what a lesson that, you talk about humility and perseverance as part of your virtues. And clearly, when you go into an exam, having published something that no one else has done with a high GPA, and you fail it twice, not once, you fail it twice. Yeah. Well, that can put that can humble you down some. But right. Shorty's words about not quitting came to mind. It's interesting how you were able to pull back from your previous experience and pull that voice to the forefront and apply it to what you needed at that time. That's right.
That's really great.
We'll return to David's conversation with Héctor Cólon in part 2 of the podcast in just a minute. David shares his own story in the book Getting Undressed, From Paralysis to Purpose, and now it's available as an audiobook, narrated by the author. Here's an excerpt from Chapter 5, in which David recalls how his journey to become a successful corporate banker dressed in tailored suits began quite humbly as a lockbox clerk.
A lockbox clerk was not a glamorous position, but it represented a new beginning for me. It was another important step and opportunity as I continued the process of starting my life over. My job was processing insurance premium payments on an IBM 3762 machine for hours at a time, followed by filing the checks alphabetically and numerically. What others may have considered boring and mundane work, I saw as my path into banking. Several key people at the M&I data center supported me. Richard Phelan, the manager overseeing all of the lockbox operations, made sure I had every opportunity to flourish in spite of my physical limitations and lack of business experience. He helped me understand the significance of the work I was doing and how it impacted the corporation's bottom line. Richard instilled confidence in me and positioned me for success, 2 keys of an effective leader and coach. Linda Atwell sat across from me as I worked on the IBM 3762. She was easy to talk to, a pleasure to be around, and made me feel comfortable. She treated me like I was another full-time employee, not a part-time high school worker. From the first day I met her, the wheelchair was never an issue for her. Through our many conversations, it didn't take long for trust to build between us. The trust led to Linda becoming one of the first people outside of my family and high school friends with whom I openly discussed what it was like to be in a wheelchair. It was my opportunity to make someone else comfortable with me and break down another barrier. Linda and I became good friends. As much as I appreciated the lockbox job, my goal was to make it to the M&I Bank headquarters in downtown Milwaukee, where Jim Wigdale worked. I wanted to wear 3-button suits like he did, to have lunch with clients on the 6th floor in the executive dining room, to be where the action was. In the meantime, I made sure I met the quotas for the number of batches completed each day and got checks filed efficiently and accurately. My hard work and attention to detail did not go unnoticed. In the spring of my senior year, I was awarded a 4-year summer internship at the bank's headquarters. My confidence was at an all-time high. My plan to become a banker was on track. I was heading downtown.
That was David Cooks narrating a portion of his book, Getting Undressed, From Paralysis to Purpose. This inspiring and award-winning 2018 release is now an audiobook available to purchase and download. Now, let's get back to part 2 of Knocked Out, Life Lessons from Boxing, with David and his guest, Héctor Cólon.
So you get your exam, finally you passed and everything, and it's time to go to work. In this process of getting your academics and starting to look for jobs, you met your wife. Mm-hmm. You didn't know at the time she was going to be your wife, but when you met her, you're like, I think that's going to be my wife. Can you talk about the relationship you had with her during some of these times where you had really hard choices to make?
Yeah. So, when I gave up boxing, I ended up going to the church, and I wanted to meet a good woman, and the first woman I saw was my wife. She was in the choir, and started to try to develop a friendship with her. And right away, she doesn't admit this now, but she said this, who's this punk from the street? I don't know who he is, and didn't want nothing to do with me. But she saw I was taking stuff seriously, and we got to know each other, became friends, and we really connected. She's a beautiful woman, and she comes from a great family, has always had great faith, great wisdom, and I'm blessed to be with her. There was a time where I was so immersed in my school because I was trying to make up for lost time, and I want to, have a good career, and she was worried that I wasn't taking my faith as seriously as I was when I first met her. And she did break up with me, and I was devastated. It was a big blow, a little bit of a low blow, actually. I was hurt because not only for her, but I loved her family. She has a great family. I loved her father so much, and her mother and her siblings. It was a great family to be a part of. I saw stability, and I come from a broken family. I didn't see that with them, and I love that, and I thought that was great. And so I was hurt, and she broke up with me, and it was about a year we were broken up, and then she wanted to come back. Then I kind of pushed her away a little bit, and I wasn't sure that I wanted to get back with her, and it would have been a huge mistake if my pride would have set in and not allowed us to come back. So I'm blessed with my wife. We have 2 beautiful children. We've been married for 21 years, and she makes me a better person each and every day.
You weren't always the CEO of Lutheran Social Services of Wisconsin and Upper Michigan. What were your steps along the way? And could you talk a little bit about, as a child, you faced some discrimination, and even as an adult in the academic world and also in the corporate world, you got there and you was surprised by some of the things that were said and can you talk about that?
Yes. Yeah. So, I always worked really hard, and was always very ambitious. And really what I wanted to do is, right when I graduated from college, I wanted to get some experience and have my own business. I specifically wanted to contract with hospitals to provide therapy to Spanish-speaking clients. But I didn't get an opportunity to work in a hospital because the job market was saturated. So I ended up working in mental health. I also was interested in mental health because of my sister. She has severe persistent mental illness, had co-occurring addiction for many years, up until my daughter was born, which is 18 years ago, where my mother told her, she said, if you don't stop taking drugs and start adhering to treatment, you're not going to be able to see Angelis. And of all the things, that's what did it for her. She went years in and out of jail, years in and out of the psychiatric hospital, suicide attempts, fights with my mother, all in front of me when I was a little young boy. And to see her change after my daughter was born is a true example of temperance and self-control that she exhibited when it mattered a lot. for her. So I was always passionate about mental health as well. And so I started off as a mental health clinician, providing individuals with severe persistent mental illness with therapy. But within 3 months, I became the assistant director of that community support program for people with mental illness. And I've been in management and leadership ever since. So pretty much all of my career, I've been in management and leadership. And I always did want to become a CEO. I started at Wisconsin Correctional Services, but then I went to the United Community Center. And that's where I'm a product, having boxed there, played baseball there, grown up there. UCC has played a huge role in my life. And I was the associate executive director there, overseeing the elderly programs. And right away, I wanted to become the executive director there. And Walter Sava retired, but then Ricardo Diaz came in, very experienced professional, a mentor and friend, and he became the executive director. And I learned a lot from him while I was there. But it was a great place to be because I consider myself a product of UCC. Then I branched out into government. So worked for Mayor Barrett as a lobbyist. And my experience with Mayor Barrett, I was so thankful. He gave me this opportunity, and I met with one of the aldermen, and he said, Hector, I saw your resume. You're a nice guy, but you're not qualified for this position. This is one of the most important positions we have in city government, and I don't know what Mayor Barrett is thinking. And I said, hey, let me tell you a little bit about my skills and how I feel they're transferable and how I feel I can be effective. Hector, are you a Republican? I said, no, but I'm independent. And I have friends across the aisle, and I can work with anybody, and I can be persuasive and know how to bring people in. Hector, you're not qualified. I'm sorry. I don't know what Mayor Barrett is thinking. So I told him, I said, I know you know Ricardo Diaz. Could you please talk to him and tell you a little bit about myself? And the next day he saw me, he said, good luck. But it challenged me to make sure that I didn't let Mayor Barrett down, who gave me this wonderful opportunity. And I proved to myself that I can do a great job. And while I was there just by myself, I was able to pass more legislation in just 1 year compared to a team of lobbyists, 4 to 5 over 2 sessions combined in that 1 year. And it was about relationship building. It was about being passionate about the issues that I was talking about. It was being willing to work across the aisle and know who to go to, who is influential. So to me, it wasn't very hard at all. Then I went to work for Governor Doyle. And Governor Doyle gave me an opportunity to be the Director of Economic Development for WIDA, second largest bank by way of assets in the state of Wisconsin. Here I am, an occupational therapist. I don't have an MBA. I don't have a finance background. I don't have a banking background. And yet, here's this incredible opportunity to lead the economic development efforts. And I'm so thankful to Governor Doyle, so thankful to Mayor Barrett. When I was at WIDA, along with my team, I had a great team. I learned quickly. So I really stretched myself. And part of boxing is facing your fears, the virtue of courage. So in boxing, I said, there's no greater fear than entering into that ring. I don't care who you are, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, you go into that ring with fear. But what gives you the confidence is that dedication, that determination, that discipline, that self-preparedness that gives you the confidence to enter into that ring. That's how it is with life.
You mentioned temperance, and how is it that boxing, it just seems like almost like an oxymoron to say that boxing taught me temperance.
Oh, man.
Help us.
So, boxing, man, you better learn self-control and temperance. When you're in that ring and you get hit, you can't get mad and lose control and react. You have to stay composed and strategize and see how you're not going to get hit again. And you have to have a lot of composure. Or, before the fight, there's a lot of smash talking and the individual's going to try to get to your head. You got to be relaxed and don't let that get to your head and tell yourself, I'm going to take care of this in the ring. Or if you're in the ring and somebody hits you with a low blow and it hurts, but the referee doesn't see it, you can't retaliate with a low blow because now the referee might see it and you would get disqualified. So you learn temperance, like almost no other virtue in the sport of boxing, because if you don't have it, you are not going to be successful.
So the other thing that, as I read through your book and all these places that you went to and worked at, you almost became like a workout specialist. You were turning businesses around and creating opportunities that way. Ultimately, you ended at Lutheran Social Services, a Catholic person running a Lutheran organization. And one of the underlying themes in all of the positions that you took was the need to build trust. You talked about relationships before. When you got to Lutheran Social Services, you had to make some very difficult decisions, which is part of being a leader. Can you walk us through the making those decisions and how you were able to build trust and build consensus, so to speak, within the organization to cause it to move forward?
Yeah, first my journey to the CEO, another two. So two major opportunities that I did not get that I thought I would get. And then LSS comes to my lap, get approached by John Howman, the board chair, and says, everywhere I turn, people say, I need to speak with you. Would you be interested in having a conversation about the CEO position? So I said, sure. We hit it off really well. He tells me now he went home to his wife and he tells her, if this were my company, I would hire Héctor on the spot. Unfortunately, it wasn't his company, and it took a 6-month process. Midway through that process, I almost was a coward and removed my name from the list for fear of rejection a third time. And because I learned that I would be the first non-Lutheran, non-pastor, non-Norwegian to become the president of Lutheran Social Services. And I said, there's no way they're going to hire me. And I was fear of being rejected. So I talked to the HR consultant and the board chair, and they encouraged me. And I'm so glad I decided to move forward because this is one of the best organizations in the country. I feel so humbled and honored to have been accepted to lead this organization, and it is absolutely outstanding. But we had lots of challenges. We created a team. This team is absolutely outstanding, humble servant leaders, serving one another. This ain't a top-down approach. So I started off by asking 5 questions. It is the answers and insights to those questions from the colleagues at LSS, the board members that transform this organization since I've been here. It's been looking at 3 years before I got here. I'm going into my 4th year now, but it's a $12.4 million turnaround.
Can you talk about the importance of asking questions as a leader, as someone that may coach people? What's the significance of asking questions and getting others' inputs?
I think it's so critical. I think leaders need to do more of it. The colleagues that surround you, the people that surround you, they are really smart. And you have to get their ideas, their input, their insights. And it's very important to do that, not only because they're smart and they know the answers, but also because of engagement. And how do you co-create a vision, a future, a strategy along with the staff? So I don't see myself as CEO where my job title says I create the vision, the direction, the strategy, and my team executes that. I prefer to co-create that with my team, not only with the top leadership team, but with the organization, because that's where you get true engagement. That's where you get true buy-in. That's where you get brilliance and talent. That you're tapping into that talent that the organization has. And it's really core to a servant leadership approach. And I gravitate towards that because I learned that from my mother. So here my mother is working 2 and 3 jobs when my father left to Puerto Rico and never complained. Not once did I hear my mother complain. Not only did she not complain, but she would serve my sister who had severe persistent mental illness and addiction. She would serve her friends. She would bring in people with mental illness, the homeless, did everything a paid case manager would do for these individuals without receiving a dime. And then I saw Shorty and how he served me, spent his nights, his weekends, took me into his own home. And the difference these 2 individuals made in my personal life. So I gravitate towards that where I want to serve others. I want to know how well they're doing. I want to empower them. I want to learn from them. I want to lean on them, and through that process, we can become stronger together.
What's the relationship between, you call it co-creating, servant leadership, and diversity and inclusion? How are they interrelated? Are they related?
Yes. So diversity and inclusion is very important, and I'll step back and tell you a little story here at LSS. So there were some people that were very upset that I was hired. And one person even came up to me and said, Hector, this is going to take some getting used to. You're the first non-Lutheran, non-pastor, non-Norwegian. You're a manipulator. This is going to take some time to get used to. So I was okay with all that first stuff, but I didn't understand the manipulator part. So I challenged him with that. And the manipulator thing turned into being persuasive, which is 2 totally different things. But I was bothered by that, and I was bothered by some within the organization. I considered leaving the organization. It would have been a huge mistake because as a whole, this organization has embraced me. The ELCA has embraced me. They've invited me to give sermons, and I have felt welcomed by this organization. So it would have been a huge mistake. But I did feel a little bit of those challenges coming in. Equity, diversity, inclusion, I put it within the lens of the scripture, within the lens of the values of this organization. We are one body and many parts. You need each of those parts to operate as a whole. Love your neighbor as yourself. All of those, there's tons of scriptures that show us why equity, diversity, inclusion is not only the right thing to do, but the smart thing to do. And sometimes people don't entirely understand what it means.
We'll return with part 3 of my conversation with Héctor Cólon in just a minute. This is David Cooks, pressing pause to say thank you for listening to Paralysis to Purpose. If you recently discovered my podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Here in Season 2, we drop a new episode every Tuesday morning. There's also a list of past episodes you'll want to check out, like my conversation with Dr. Sherry Hall. Her journey from paralysis to purpose was nothing short of remarkable. I even call it miraculous. During episode 5, entitled Looking for Love, Sherry recalled the night she and her medical school classmates celebrated their graduation and anticipated their residency placements. Even though it was a jubilant occasion, beneath her smile, Sherry was feeling hopeless, scared, and alone. That's when something unexpected happened.
We had something called Super Night, and it was just a beautiful coming together of everybody. There's all this anxiety and tension and excitement. Where are we going to go? What match place are we going to, become? What specialty are we going to go into? Well, we did a big performance. Of course, I'm up there on the stage with a bunch of my colleagues, and one of my friends during medical school, Jimmy, he and I were doing a parody on anatomy class. And at the end of the show, Jimmy comes up to me and we've just done this great piece together on the stage. We're all sweaty and everything. And he's like, Sherry, there's a lot of people in our class, I think, who would love to say something to you, but they're probably not. So I'm going to. He comes up to me and he gives me a big hug, like a genuine, loving, nurturing hug. And he says, I just want you to know that you being here made my life and the life of so many other people easier and better going through medical school. We could not have done this without you here, without you present, without you bringing, your Sherry Hall flair, so to speak. And what's amazing about that moment, David, is that at the very moment I was thinking of ending it all, I cannot go through this torture in my head one more day, one more minute. Here comes this man. He comes up and he touches me, but he touched me emotionally and spiritually. And he let me know that while I may have not felt that there was purpose and plan to my life, there was a much bigger purpose and plan to my being there that I had no knowledge of whatsoever. I did do some good for the people with whom I came in contact on a daily basis. I did shine some light into someone else's life despite going through my own suffering and mental torturing.
That was Dr. Sherry Hall from episode 5 in season 1. When you get a chance, make sure you listen to the rest of that conversation. I was truly amazed and inspired by her story, and I think you will be too. For now, let's get back to Knocked Out, Life Lessons from Boxing with Héctor Cólon.
Let's talk about where we are right now as a country, as a world. At the time of this recording, we are in a little bit of a respite, if I can call it that, from the impacts of COVID-19. That being said, and you've been involved in mental health, I'm interested in what you think the whenever that is, the post-COVID impact will be from a mental health standpoint, and how to position ourselves to be ready for that.
Yeah, first of all, pre-COVID, mental health and addiction is a pandemic already. 1 in 4 of us experiences a mental illness. Too many people are dying each and every day from addiction. So I would say there is a pandemic, and we do have a crisis with addiction, even pre-pandemic. So now pandemic, it heightened anxiety, depression, domestic violence, and mental illness. It even got exacerbated. And so that unfortunately created a lot of business for LSS. And we provided those individuals with the services to help them achieve health and well-being during this crisis. And it was real hard. So the pandemic hit. I remember first week of March, we couldn't see our clients. Within a couple weeks, we pivoted towards telehealth. The staff in this organization, the humble servant leaders, the compassionate individuals that love the people we serve, made it happen and pivoted towards telehealth so quickly so that we can continue to see these individuals that needed us now more than ever. But let's also talk about our times right now. Think about the pandemic and the devastation that it has caused to so many people. But how about the civil unrest, the political polarization, and the social media and all that comes around that? It is a difficult time on so many fronts.
And you were able to, during your time in politics, remain an independent, but pull from both sides to get it to work together. And I truly do hope that as a country and locally that we can get back to partnerships, because that partnership, co-creating, those 5 virtues that you talked about are essential, not only in the boxing ring, as you have shown, and not only in the boardroom, but out in the marketplace. And if we can continue to use those, I think we'll all be better. Before we close, what's next for you?
So I want to grow LSS to be a $100 million organization. We're 60 million today. I want to strive very hard to pay our staff commensurate to the value they provide in society. These are individuals that are preventing incarceration. These are individuals that are preventing emergency room visit. These are individuals that are getting people out of government. They need to be paid better. And I want to work really hard and be very proud of the organization that pays the most in the nonprofit sector. And the other thing is I want to bring out, through the services we provide at LSS, the excellence in the people we serve, bring out their infinite potential. And so there's lots to do at LSS. I love LSS. I invite others to love LSS, donors out there that want to be a part of this family and allowing us to be part of your story. I want to do more of that.
Well, that's fantastic. And once again, you're thinking beyond yourself and your organization and serving people, because at the core of who you are is a servant leader. I mean, that's at the core of who you are. And if you can help somebody else have a better day, I know that's what you will do. If people would like to get a hold of you to have you as a speaker, order your book, where can they find out about Héctor Cólon?
Yes. So Héctor Cólon, mke.com. That's my personal website, Héctor Cólon, mke.com. You can book me for your next speaker. That's another thing. I want to elevate my keynote speaking. And so I've done several national ones. And I definitely, if you invite me, I'm going to bring out the champion in you. So my website is HéctorCólonMK.com. You can book me as a speaker. You can purchase my book there too. My book is also on Amazon. And I just realized today that I'm number 41 of boxing biographies. So I haven't seen myself better than in the 200s. So I'm number 41, man. Who knows? I'll make the top 10 soon.
Hey, let me tell you, that's really great. You know, all of those things that you talked about, the 5 virtues keep coming back, they apply to your book as well, and to you as a speaker as well. You know, the humility, the doing the best you can, the not quitting, you know, all of those things become important. So we'll look for your book to get to the top 10.
Yes.
Let me tell you, Héctor, it was great having you today. And for our audience, make sure you go check out his website and get his book. And if you're looking for a great speaker, he's a really good one. And until the next episode of Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast, I'm your host, David Cooks, reminding you that your ability to endure is always greater than your willingness to endure.
You can do anything you put your mind to.
Thanks for tuning in to Paralysis to Purpose. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paralysis to Purpose on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. To purchase his book, visit davidcookspeaks.com. Be sure to tune in next time for more inspiring conversations with David Cooks.
It was about 1.5 years into my rehabilitation when my body started to plateau out, my recovery started to plateau out, that I struggled. And that's because I held hope. I held hope that my bladder would come back. I held hope that my glute muscles and calf muscles and plantar flexion in my feet and feeling below my waist and all of this other stuff, I held hope that it would come back.
Next time on Paralysis to Purpose.
Well, I'd like to welcome Ryan Campbell.
And I'd seen so much recovery. I'd had a miraculous recovery. For those listening, I now walk. I look like I've had a few too many Tennessee whiskeys, but, I walk. And I'm incredibly lucky to be where I am. But because I saw so much recovery over that 1.5 year period, hard work or not, there was no reason that I didn't think it could keep going. And I was very positive in that front. When it stopped, it was tough.